We got it on? All right, we got it on. Cool. Some of y'all know that about 2 years ago, my wife and I left this church and all the wonderful friends we'd made here and left a perfectly good house in Houston and moved to Baytown to be part of a church plant that a really good friend of mine had started out there. And the church plant had been going about 2 years, and there were lots of people coming there that hadn't been to other churches, and they were studying the Word of God, and they were growing closer to Him and becoming a family, and it sounded like a really wonderful thing was going on out there. A lot of them had a lot of hurt in their past, and so my wife and I went and got training to bring Living Waters there. Living Waters is a relational healing course that helps people take that kind of stuff to God. And so we bought a house out there, a big house with plenty of room, and we moved in, and we'd been there about 2 weeks going to the church, and there were a bunch of boxes still not even unpacked yet. And I got a call from my friend, the pastor, and he said the church was losing their building and didn't have the money to keep the building going, and could they meet in our house? And so we said, sure, yeah, we had room, and so they came and they started meeting in our house. And so they met there about 3 weeks, and then he told us that he was stepping down as pastor. And apparently him and his wife were having a lot of trouble. And so he stepped down, and he kept coming another 2 weeks, and then he stopped coming. And when he stopped coming, about 2/3 of the other people in the church stopped coming. And the people who were still there were really tired and broken and hurting from what had happened, and there was a lot of confusion, a lot of hurt. And my wife and I just started calling out to God. We know you have the power to heal, the wounded hearts here, and to continue this beautiful thing that had started to happen here. And but the people who were still there were really tired out and wounded and broken, and they weren't willing to let God reach them in those places and bring the healing and the restoration and the renewed fire to keep doing that. So after a while, the church just closed down, and I was crushed. I was crushed because there had been a lot of cost and a lot of work and a lot of risk that we had put into going out there, and we had been so excited and so hopeful for what a beautiful thing was going to happen out there, and it was over. And I started to get really cynical in my heart. And by cynical, I mean that if you told me that something was a certain way, I figured it was probably different than what you told me. And if you seemed to be a certain kind of person, I would start to question that and wonder if you were really not what you looked like you were. And this hope just started to really drag me down. Until one day, I was here and Jeff was giving a sermon. At the end of his sermon, he showed a video. And it was some kind of night of worship or a worship concert, something like that. And there was this girl leading worship. And she was she was so excited. And she just looked like she was so full of hope and so into what she was singing to God and just so excited, so full of hope. And I started to come undone as I watched that, because I realized what I was looking at was a picture of my heart, the way my heart used to be with God, and the way my heart used to be about people with God, and that I had lost that. And so then she gets to the end of the song, and she starts prophesying about what God is going to do in that room that night. And then I just came completely unglued in my seat, and just going through boxes of Kleenex and totally losing it. And because my heart was crying out to God, God, that used to be my heart with you. That used to be my heart with you and people. And what happened? How did I get here? how did I get to this place where I've lost hope for you and what you'll do in people's lives? And he heard me. God heard me. And he started to bring the answer. And before long, I noticed that when I would get alone with him, that cynicism and just depression and lack of hope would just melt away, and that I would be okay while I was with him. But then, life would come back. I'd get back into life, and the cynicism would come back, and all the hurt and all the lack of hope. And, it wasn't like I'd lost hope in God, because I would see him move in other churches all around Houston. And I started coming back here, and, I would see him move in relationships here. But I had lost hope that he was going to do anything between me and you and me and other people that I would have had so much hope for before. And then one day he really answered me. He really answered the cry of my heart. And it's like he said to me, "Tom, do you want to see what's real?" He said, "You're questioning everything. You're questioning the reality of everything. But do you want to see what's real?" And he showed me a picture of Jesus on the cross. And I realized that Jesus would not have done that for me. He wouldn't have loved me that much. He wouldn't have done that for me if he didn't love me that much, if he didn't really, really love me. And that was a real love. But then there was more, right? Because I was still questioning things. And he showed me the resurrection. He showed me that Jesus could not have risen from the dead if he was not God. And that was it. That was it. See, because then there's a God who is the creator of the whole universe, who loves me enough, who was also not okay with staying in that place where the things that we do that hurt each other, that separate us from him, God was not okay with leaving us in that place either. And it was so worth it to him that he gave his only son. And it was so worth it to Jesus that he was willing to go to the cross for us. And I realized that that is where my cynicism ends. And in him, if we open our hearts, I realize that if we open our hearts, if you and I open our hearts, even if we're hurting each other, or we're being bad to each other and mistreating each other, if we both open up our hearts to him, he has the power. And in him, there is complete hope for any relationship and any situation. As you think about relationships and situations in your own life, I want to invite you to just open up your heart, receive these words, receive the truth that's in these words for your life. Because his love brings everything that's needed. Everything that's needed, he brings. Help us to receive this. He is jealous for me. Love's like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. When all of a sudden I am unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory, and I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. Yes. And oh, how he loves us so.